introduce our speakers today, I would like to invite V. Srivastava, co-founder and Robotics for Jesus, say a few words.
Hello and good evening everyone. I am Sameer Srivastava. Welcome you all to this session organized by the Multis Law Center on right and privileges of arrested person under Indian legal system. Prior to initiating today's session, I would like to give a brief description about our firm, that is the Multis Law Center. The Multis Law Center is basically a Delhi-based legal firm consisting of three partners: me, Sameer Srivastava, Mr. Dipanshu Gupta, and Mr. Nitin Devarmola, specialized into the field of civil, criminal, corporate, RERA, etc. So without taking too much time, I would like to request our moderator, Ms. Pragya Rao, to take charge and initiate today's session. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir, for providing a brief about your organization. In India, the legal system is influenced by and has adopted the principle of natural justice, which is considered in respect to both the parties. This principle lays down fundamentals to be followed in any trial, proceedings, and investigation. These principles have been enshrined under various articles under the Indian Constitution, thereby providing with equal rights to the arrested person, such as speedy trial, consult a lawyer, free legal aid, medical help, etc. To have an in-depth knowledge of the same, we have Mr. Vinod Kumar Saroj and Dr. Anju Pandey as our guest speakers for the day. Our first speaker, born in the state of Uttar Pradesh, Dr. Vinod Kumar Saroj has successfully completed his LLB degree from University of Allahabad, LLM from Babasaheb Bhimrao Ambedkar Central University, Lucknow, PhD from Central University of Rajasthan and UGC NET. He is the recipient of UGC Rajiv Gandhi National Fellowship during his doctorate degree. He has organized a number of national seminars and national webinars. He has an academic experience of 8 years and at present, he is positioned as Assistant Professor in School of Legal Studies, Sangam University, Bhilwara, Rajasthan. He has authored a number of research papers published in various reputed journals. He has actively attended and participated in a number of national and international seminars, conferences, workshops, which include ICSSR-sponsored research methodology workshops. At present, 4 research scholars are pursuing their PhD work under his guidance. His field of specialization is constitutional law, human rights, and family law. He is highly motivated, hardworking, managing, and handling different job responsibilities as and when required. Today, he will talk about the constitutional aspect for the topic. So, without wasting much time, I would request our guest speaker to enlighten us on today's topic, and I would also request all the participants to switch off their cameras and microphones before we begin. And in case of any questions related to the topic, kindly drop them in the chat box. The platform is all yours, sir.
Thank you for your kind introduction, ma'am. At the beginning, I would like to highlight on the provisions of Constitution of India related to rights and privileges of arrested persons. To begin with, it is worthy to state in this context that the Constitution of India is one of the most comprehensive among all the constitutions of the world, which not only declares rights and privileges of the citizens of this country, but also depicts a clear picture of the rights and privileges of arrested person also. Constitution of India पार्ट 3 में डिफाइन फंडामेंटल राइट्स में सबसे इम्पोर्टेंट राइट है राइट टू लाइफ एंड पर्सनल लिबर्टी, which is defined under Article 21. According to this article, no person shall be deprived of his life and personal liberty except according to procedure established by law. तो आर्टिकल 21 में कुछ टर्म्स यूज हुए हैं जिनको मैं यहाँ पे डिफाइन करना चाहूंगा, उसके बाद मैं आगे बढ़ता हूँ। तो सबसे पहले इसमें वर्ड यूज हुआ है पर्सन। तो यहाँ पे सिटीजन वर्ड यूज ना होकर के कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन फ्रेमवर्क ने पर्सन वर्ड यूज किया है। इट मीन्स कि आर्टिकल 21 का प्रोटेक्शन सिटीजन और नॉन सिटीजन दोनों को मिला। सेकेंड वर्ड इसमें यूज किया गया है लाइफ। तो लाइफ को लेकर के बड़ा डिस्प्यूट हुआ। तो इसमें सबसे पहले ऑनरेबल सुप्रीम कोर्ट में हमारे खड़क सिंह वर्सेज स्टेट ऑफ यूपी के केस में लाइफ को डिफाइन किया और कहा लाइफ मीन्स लाइफ विद डिग्निटी, लाइफ तो जानवरों की होती है, पशुओं की होती है, लेकिन लाइफ ऐसी होनी चाहिए जो ब्यूटीफुल हो। जस्ट उसके बाद इसमें एक वर्ड यूज हुआ है, लाइफ एंड पर्सनल लिबर्टी। पर्सनल लिबर्टी, तो ये पर्सनल लिबर्टी क्या होता है? तो इसमें बहुत सारे लोग अल्लाह से बिलोंग करते होंगे। तो पर्सनल लिबर्टी वर्ड को सबसे पहले जो है ए.के. गोपालन वर्सेज स्टेट ऑफ मद्रास 1950 के केस में को लेकर के डिस्प्यूट हुआ। तो उस समय ऑनरेबल सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने इसको डिफाइन किया और इसमें इस केस में मेनली दो बातें कही गई। पहली बात तो कही गई कि जो ये पर्सनल लिबर्टी है, ये इसका प्रोटेक्शन आर्टिकल 21 का प्रोटेक्शन ओनली एग्जीक्यूटिव के अगेंस्ट है। इसका प्रोटेक्शन लेजिस्लेचर के अगेंस्ट नहीं है। सेकंड बात ये कही गई इसमें इट मींस कि लेजिस्लेचर जो है कोई लॉ इनेक्ट करके आपको आपकी लाइफ और पर्सनल लिबर्टी से आपको डिप्राइव किया जा सकता है, इस डिसीजन में कहा गया। सेकंड इसमें कही गई, डाइसिंग महोदय ने क्या बताया? डाइसिंग महोदय ने कहा कि किसी भी व्यक्ति को विदाउट एनी वैलिड ग्राउंड ना तो अरेस्ट किया जाएगा और ना ही डिटेन किया जाएगा। बट इस केस में जस्टिस फजल अली ने अपना सम्मत व्यक्त किया और इस डिसीजन से वो एग्री नहीं करते और उन्होंने कहा कि इसको हम इतनी जो है इसकी नैरो जो है हम स्वीकार नहीं करते हैं, इसको और ब्रॉडर सेंस में हमको लेना चाहिए। तो उसका जो मत था उस मत को आगे चल करके मेनका गांधी के केस में, मेनका गांधी वर्सेस यूनियन ऑफ इंडिया 1978 के केस में ऑनरेबल सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने अपने द्वारा दिए गए निर्णय को, गोपाला के केस में दिए गए निर्णय को ओवर रूल किया और कहा कि आर्टिकल 21 का प्रोटेक्शन ओनली एग्जीक्यूटिव के अगेंस्ट ही नहीं है, ये लेजिस्लेचर के भी अगेंस्ट है। इसका प्रोटेक्शन जो है लेजिस्लेचर के अगेंस्ट भी होगा। ऐसा नहीं कि लेजिस्लेचर कुछ भी लॉ बना करके आपको आपकी लाइफ को पर्सनल लिबर्टी से डिप्राइव कर दे। दूसरी इसमें इंपॉर्टेंट बात कही गई, आपको अगर कोई लॉ बाइलियन बनाता है और आपको आपकी लाइफ और पर्सनल लिबर्टी से आपको डिप्राइव करता है तो जो प्रोसीजर होगा जस्ट क्लियर एंड रीजनेबल होना चाहिए। इट मींस कि जैसे अमेरिकन कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन में वर्ड यूज हुआ है ड्यू प्रोसेस ऑफ लॉ, और इंडियन कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन में हमारे वर्ड यूज हुआ है प्रोसीजर एस्टैब्लिश बाय लॉ। तो हमको यहाँ पे समझना होगा कि दोनों में डिफरेंस क्या है, व्हाट इज डिफरेंस बिटवीन ड्यू प्रोसेस ऑफ लॉ एंड प्रोसीजर एस्टैब्लिश बाय लॉ। तो सुप्रीम कोर्ट, अमेरिकन सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने जो इसका इंटरप्रिटेशन किया तो उन्होंने कहा कि ये जो ड्यू प्रोसेस ऑफ लॉ है इसका नेचुरल जस्टिस जो है एक एसेंशियल एलिमेंट है, नेचुरल जस्टिस एसेंशियल एलिमेंट है। बट तो हमारे यहाँ पे वर्ड यूज हुआ है प्रोसीजर एस्टैब्लिश बाय लॉ। तो प्रोसीजर एस्टैब्लिश बाय लॉ जो वर्ड है इसमें नेचुरल जस्टिस हो भी सकता है और नहीं भी हो सकता है, क्योंकि हमारे कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन को इन्फोर्स नियर अबाउट 70 ईयर्स हो गए हैं। तो आज सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने अपने डिसीजन के माध्यम से क्लियर कर दिया है कि नेचुरल जस्टिस जो है हमारे आर्टिकल 21 का एसेंशियल एलिमेंट्स है। फिर हम उसके बाद जो है आर्टिकल 21, तो आर्टिकल 21 में हमको ये तो बता दिया गया कि अगर आपको इलीगल तरीके से अरेस्ट किया जाता है या डिटेन किया जाता है तो ये इलीगल है, ये अनकॉन्स्टिट्यूशनल है। और आर्टिकल 21 में कहीं ये नहीं बताया गया कि आपको जब अरेस्ट किया जाता है, अरेस्ट करने के बाद आपके क्या राइट्स होंगे। तो यहाँ पे हम फिर डिस्कस करना चाहेंगे आर्टिकल 22। तो आर्टिकल 22 अकेले सफिशिएंट नहीं है, तो एक दूसरे के सप्लीमेंट है। आर्टिकल 22 रीड विद आर्टिकल 22, आर्टिकल 21 रीड विद आर्टिकल 22, दोनों एक दूसरे के एक सिक्के के हम दो पहलू कह सकते हैं। तो आर्टिकल 22 जो है, आर्टिकल 22 हमको बताता है कि इसमें जो है हमको जब अरेस्ट किया जाएगा तो अरेस्ट के बाद हमारे क्या राइट होंगे। तो हम आर्टिकल 22 के बारे में हम डिस्कस करेंगे। तो आर्टिकल 22 में 7 क्लास है। तो यहाँ पे आर्टिकल 22 दो तरह की जो जो है गिरफ्तारियों के बारे में बात करता है। एक तो बात करता है प्रिवेंटिव, एक प्रिवेंटिव। प्रिवेंटिव में कि जो साधारण जो जनरल लॉज है उनके अंतर्गत अगर कोई अरेस्ट किया जाता है तो उस अरेस्टेड पर्सन को क्या राइट्स होंगे। और प्रिवेंटिव डिटेंशन बात करता है जैसे आपका टाटा है, नीसा है, कोटा है, बहुत सारे जो इस तरह के इंटरनेशनल नेशनल प्रोटेक्शन के रिगार्डिंग जो लॉज बनाए गए हैं उनके रिगार्डिंग बात करता है। तो आजकल जब हम 22 की बात करते हैं प्रिवेंटिव लॉज की, तो इसका सब क्लास 1 और 22 का सब क्लास 1 और 2 यहाँ पे इम्पोर्टेंट है। तो जब हम आर्टिकल 22 से क्लास 1 और 2 को रीड करते हैं, एक बार मैं आपको डिफाइन करता हूं इसको। जैसे आर्टिकल 22 का क्लास 1 कहता है नो पर्सन हु इज अरेस्टेड शैल बी डिनाइड इन कस्टडी विदाउट बीइंग इन्फॉर्म्ड as soon as may be of the grounds for such arrest not shall he be denied the right to consult and to be defended by a legal practitioner of his choice। उसके बाद आर्टिकल 22 का सब क्लास 2 कहता है every person who is arrested and detained in custody shall be produced before the nearest magistrate within a period of 24 hours of such arrest, including the time necessary for the journey from the place of arrest to the court of the magistrate, and no such person shall be detained in custody beyond the set period without the authority of a magistrate। तो इन दोनों सब क्लास को जब हम स्टडी करते हैं इसमें से हमारे 4 पॉइंट जो है समराइज होकर निकलते हैं। तो पहला इसमें है राइट टू बी इन्फॉर्म्ड, राइट टू बी इन्फॉर्म्ड एज सून एज मे बी ऑफ द ग्राउंड फॉर सच अरेस्ट। यानी कि जब भी किसी व्यक्ति को हम अरेस्ट करेंगे, जब भी पुलिस अथॉरिटी किसी व्यक्ति को अरेस्ट करेगी तो सबसे पहले उसको अरेस्ट का जो ग्राउंड होगा उसको इन्फॉर्म किया जाएगा कि इस ग्राउंड पे आपको अरेस्ट किया गया। सेकंड पॉइंट है राइट टू कंसल्ट एंड टू बी डिफेंडेड बाय ए लीगल प्रैक्टिशनर ऑफ चॉइस। अगर किसी व्यक्ति को अरेस्ट किया जाता है तो पुलिस अथॉरिटी उसको बताएंगे या फिर आप चाहें तो अपने किसी लीगल प्रैक्टिशनर से अपने बचाव के लिए आप कंसल्ट कर सकते हैं। थर्ड जो इसमें कंक्लूजन आया है दोनों आर्टिकल से सब क्लास से कि किसी व्यक्ति को जब अरेस्ट किया जाएगा तो अरेस्ट के समय से 24 आवर्स के अंदर उसको जो नियरेस्ट मजिस्ट्रेट होगा वहां पे उसके समक्ष उसको पेश किया जाएगा। और ये जो समय होगा तो का टाइम होगा इंक्लूड नहीं होगा जब लाट 24 आवर्स विदाउट द अथॉरिटी ऑफ द मजिस्ट्रेट। यदि अगर 24 आवर्स से ज्यादा हम उसको कस्टडी में हमें उसको रखना है तो विदाउट हम मजिस्ट्रेट की परमिशन के उसको कस्टडी में नहीं रख सकते हैं। तो यहाँ पे ये जो 4 पॉइंट निकल के आए जो है तो ये आज का जो हमारा टॉपिक है राइट टाइम प्रिविलेज ऑफ अरेस्टेड पर्सन, तो यहाँ पे ये 4 पॉइंट बहुत ही इंपॉर्टेंट है। लेकिन इन 4 पॉइंट के 2 एक्सेप्शन भी हैं। 2 एक्सेप्शन क्या है? जैसे कोई एनिमी एलियन है, देश का कोई व्यक्ति है तो उसको इसका बेनिफिट नहीं मिलेगा, उसको इसका प्रोटेक्शन नहीं मिलेगा। सेकंड है तो स्टार्टिंग में हमने आपको बताया प्रिवेंटिव डिटेंशन। अगर किसी पर्सन को हम प्रिवेंटिव डिटेंशन के अंतर्गत अरेस्ट करते हैं तो वहां भी ऐसे व्यक्ति को इन 4 पॉइंट्स का उसको प्रोटेक्शन नहीं मिलेगा। 4 पॉइंट और लास्ट 2 जुडिशरी गाइड में देखना चाहते हैं जुडिशरी गाइड में क्या बोल रहा है। तो जुडिशरी गाइड में सबसे लीडिंग देख रहा है आपका जोगिंदर सिंह वर्सेस स्टेट ऑफ यूपी 1994। तो अनेबल सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने इसमें 3 गाइडलाइन को किया, 3 डायरेक्शन अपने लिए कि अगर किसी व्यक्ति को अरेस्ट किया जाता है तो इन गाइडलाइंस को फॉलो करना कंपल्सरी है और इसको फंडामेंटल राइट है। तो पहला जो गाइडलाइन थी उसमें कहा गया अरेस्टेड पर्सन being held in custody in entirety if so request that one threat relative or other person who is known to him are likely to take an interest in his welfare told as far as practicable that he has been arrested and where is being detained। इट मीन कि जब भी किसी व्यक्ति को अरेस्ट किया जाएगा अगर वो रिक्वेस्ट करता है तो उसका जो भी नियरेस्ट फ्रेंड होगा या कोई उसका रिलेटिव होगा या कोई ऐसा व्यक्ति जो उसके वेलफेयर में इंटरेस्ट रखता हो तो उसको इन्फॉर्म किया जाएगा कि आपके फ्रेंड को या आपके रिलेटिव को अरेस्ट किया गया है और यहाँ पे इसको रखा रखा गया है उसको इन्फॉर्म किया जाएगा। सेकंड पॉइंट इसमें आता है द पुलिस ऑफिसर इन्फॉर्म द अरेस्टेड पर्सन when he is brought to the police station of this right। अगर जब पुलिस किसी व्यक्ति को अरेस्ट करेगा उसको जब पुलिस थाने पे पुलिस स्टेशन पे लाएगा तो वहां पे उसको इन्फॉर्म करेगा कि ये आपका राइट है। आप क्या चाहते हैं कि आपके किसी रिलेटिव या किसी फ्रेंड को किया जाए तो आप बताएं, ये आपका फंडामेंटल राइट है। ठीक है, उसके बाद जो है थर्ड पॉइंट आता है कि अगर हमने उसको इन्फॉर्म किया, इन्फॉर्म करने के बाद जो पुलिस स्टेशन पे डेली डायरी होती है उसमें इस बात को मेंशन किया जाएगा कि इस व्यक्ति पर्सन के जो है कहने पे या इनकी डिमांड पे हमने इस व्यक्ति को इन्फॉर्म किया है और पूरा डिटेल अपने डेली डायरी में उसको मेंशन करेंगे। और सबसे लीडिंग केस इसमें का रहा है पीके बासु वर्सेज स्टेट ऑफ वेस्ट बंगाल 1997। तो इसके बारे में डिस्कस करने से पहले मैं आपको बताना चाहूंगा जैसे जो भी लीडिंग केसेज हम आपको डिस्कस कर रहे हैं जो भी गाइडलाइंस उसमें सुखी गई, इन सारी गाइडलाइंस को हमारे जो है पार्लियामेंट के द्वारा या लेजिस्लेचर के द्वारा करते हैं 2005, 2009 और 2013 में लॉ में उसको इनकॉर्पोरेट किया गया। तो जब पीके बासु के केस की बात करते हैं तो पीके बासु अभी तक कस्टोडियल चार्जर पे आप कह सकते हैं, राइट ऑफ अरेस्टेड पर्सन पे कह सकते हैं, सबसे बड़ा लीडिंग केस रहा है ऑनरेबल सुप्रीम कोर्ट का। और सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने इसमें जो है 11 गाइडलाइंस जो है इशू किया। तो और भी प्रोविजन के बारे में आपको डिस्कस करना है तो टाइम हमको लगता है थोड़ा सा लिमिटेड है तो मैं इसके बारे में बहुत ज्यादा डिस्कस करूंगा। मेन पॉइंट आपको मैं 11 पॉइंट शेयर करता हूँ। जैसे आपका है कि अगर किसी व्यक्ति को पहले से गाइडलाइन थी, अगर पुलिस अथॉरिटी किसी पर्सन को अरेस्ट करता है तो उस समय जब ये अरेस्ट करने जाएगा तो उसका जो अपना नेम राइट होता है बोला होगा, इसमें उसका सही नाम होगा, उसकी पूरी इंफॉर्मेशन होगी, वो पुलिस वो अथॉरिटी जो है कौन है उसकी पूरी अपनी आइडेंटिफिकेशन होगी। और इन सारी चीजों को जो है उस रजिस्टर में भी मेंटेन किया जाएगा। इसलिए जब इसको अरेस्ट किया गया तो ये सारी चीजों को फॉलो किया गया था। नेक्स्ट पॉइंट आता है कि जब भी किसी व्यक्ति को अरेस्ट किया जाएगा तो वहां पे कम से कम 2 लोगों को, वहां के समाज के जो सभी लोग होंगे या उससे फैमिली के भी हो सकते हैं या उससे अगल बगल के पास पड़ोस के भी लोग हो सकते हैं, कम से कम 2 लोगों से सर्टिफाइड बात को करवाया जाएगा कि इन व्यक्ति को इस व्यक्ति को अरेस्ट किया गया। अच्छा, इसका रीजन क्या था कि उस समय डीके बाबू एक एनजीओ है, उसमें काम कर रहा था इस पे जो है, तो उसने देखा कि न्यूज चैनल पे और पेपर में बहुत सारे फेक इनकाउंटर्स पे जो है न्यूज छपती थी, तो उन्होंने एक पीआईएल फाइल किया सुप्रीम कोर्ट में। तो सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने वहां पे एक गाइडलाइन जारी किया जो कि लोगों को लेकर आते थे कोई सोसाइटी कहाँ रख रहे हैं, कैसे रख रहे हैं, कैसे अरेस्ट कर रहे हैं, कोई इन्फॉर्मेशन नहीं। तो इसलिए गाइडलाइन सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने जारी किया। तो ड्यू टू टाइम कंस्ट्रेंट तो मैं 11 पॉइंट्स को आपसे डिस्कस नहीं करूंगा, थोड़ा बता दे रहा हूँ मैं। उसके बाद आपका आता है और तो भी उसका जहाँ पे उसको डिटेन किया जाएगा उसकी भी इंफॉर्मेशन उसके रिलेटिव या जो भी पर्सन है उसको दिया जाएगा। और अगर जो है जो डिटेन किया गया व्यक्ति है जो अरेस्टेड करना है, अगर वो पैसा है तो तुरंत उसका मेडिकल चेकअप कराया जाएगा या उसके बॉडी में कहीं कोई चोट या इस तरह रोग के निशान पाए जाते हैं उसका मेडिकल चेकअप भी कराया जाएगा। वो भी 48 आवर्स के अंदर जो है अगर वो चाहे तो हर 48 आवर्स के अंदर उसका मेडिकल चेकअप कराएगा। और जब भी उससे कोई इंक्वायरी की जाएगी तो अगर वो चाहे तो उसका एडवोकेट भी वहां पे रह सकता है। एडवोकेट कोई जो है वो अपना स्टेटमेंट नहीं देगा। तो एक इनको आप लोग देख लीजिएगा और बहुत ज्यादा टाइम ना होने के बाद मैं आगे आता हूँ आपका। फिर इसमें लेडी के साथ का था प्रेम शंकर शुक्ला वर्सेस दिल्ली एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन। प्रेम शंकर शुक्ला वर्सेस दिल्ली एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन 1980 इस केस में ऑनरेबल सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने हमारे डिसीजन दिया कि हैंड कपलिंग हथकड़ी उसको कहते हैं, हथकड़ी लगाने को अनकॉन्स्टिट्यूशनल डिक्लेयर किया और कहा कि ये आर्टिकल 19 और 21 का वायलेशन है। हथकड़ी विशेष परिस्थितियों में ही लगाई जाएगी जब कोई हैबिचुअल ऑफेंडर है या ऐसी पूरी संभावना है कि वो व्यक्ति हमारी कस्टडी से भाग सकता है, और इस बात को रिटर्न में हमको देना होगा या सोसाइटी को रिटर्न में देना होगा कि ऐसा कारण जो है, दिमाग है, हमको लग रहा था कि वो व्यक्ति जो है हमारी कस्टडी से भाग सकता है। तो वहां पे जो है इस केस से हैंड कपिंग को जो है अनकॉन्स्टिट्यूशनल डिक्लेयर किया। नेक्स्ट केस आपका आता है नीलावती बेहरा। नीलावती बेहरा वर्सेस स्टेट ऑफ उड़ीसा। इस केस में कंपल्सेशन, अगर कोई अरेस्टेड पर्सन है तो उसको कहा गया कि अगर उससे फंडामेंटल राइट का वायलेशन होता है तो उसको कंपल्सेशन का भी राइट होगा। इस केस के फैक्ट कुछ इस तरह के थे कि एक लगभग 21-22 साल का जो बच्चा था जिसको जो है अरेस्ट करके ले गए और जो है और हुआ उसके खिलाफ जो है सड़क के किनारे, पाइप लाइन के किनारे, रेलवे लाइन के किनारे। तो उसकी मदर ने सिंपल सा एक लेटर सुप्रीम कोर्ट को लिखा और सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने उस लेटर को ही पीआईएल के रूप में किया और स्टेट को गाइडलाइन जारी किया कि आप जो है इनके फंडामेंटल राइट का वायलेशन हुआ और उनको आप इतना कंपल्सेशन। तो हमारा स्टेट को बनाने का मतलब ये था अगर आपके इन सारे फंडामेंटल राइट का वायलेशन होता है तो अरेस्टेड पर्सन है उसको कंपल्सेशन का भी राइट होगा। जैसा कि आप लोग देख रहे होंगे विकास दुबे का मामला जो है बहुत चर्चा में चल रहा है हमारे इंडिया में कानपुर। तो विकास दुबे मामले की हम बात करते हैं तो मेरा अपना इससे कोई पर्सनल जो नहीं हो सकता है कि इसमें अभी इंक्वायरी चल रही है, लेकिन हाँ इतना जरूर रहेंगे कि सिस्टम बनाया गया जो क्रिमिनल जस्टिस सिस्टम बनाया गया तो हमको उसके दायरे में पुलिस अथॉरिटी को स्टेट को उसके दायरे में काम करना चाहिए। अगर वास्तव में इनकाउंटर है तब तो कोई प्रॉब्लम नहीं, लेकिन अगर एक इनकाउंटर है तब एक कॉन्स्टिट्यूशनल प्रोविजन का आपके वायलेशन है, जैसे आर्टिकल 21 या 22 इन सारे प्रोविजन का आपके वायलेशन है। फिर चाहेंगे आर्टिकल 2 आता है एक्स पोस्ट फैक्टो लॉ। क्लास 2 कहता है डबल जियो पार्टी, क्लास 3 बात करता है सेल्फ इंक्रिमिनेशन। तो यहाँ पे हम इन दोनों आर्टिकल के बारे में बहुत ज्यादा बात नहीं करेंगे, क्लास 3 के बारे में बात करते हैं क्योंकि डायरेक्टली हमारे टॉपिक से रिलेटेड है। तो आर्टिकल 20 का क्लास 3 कहता है नो पर्सन अक्यूज्ड ऑफ एनी ऑफेंस shall be compelled to be a witness against himself। तो इस आर्टिकल के बाद किसी भी व्यक्ति को अपने ही अगेंस्ट कोई एविडेंस देने के लिए या अपने ही अगेंस्ट कोई स्टेटमेंट देने के लिए कंपेल नहीं किया जा सकता है, और यदि कंपेल किया जाता है तो वो उसके फंडामेंटल राइट का वायलेशन है अंडर आर्टिकल 22 क्लास 3। रिलेटेड लीडिंग केस आपका था नंदिनी सत्ती वर्सेस पीएल दानी 1978। तो इस केस के फैक्ट कुछ इस तरह से उस समय के फार्मर वहां के सीएम नंदिनी सत्ती को करप्शन के मामले में पुलिस आगे बुलाया गया, जाने के बाद उनसे इंक्वायरी गई और उनको कुछ जो है रिटर्न क्वेश्चन से आंसर देने के लिए कंपेल किया गया। कुछ रिटर्न आंसर के कुछ रिटर्न क्वेश्चन से आंसर देने के लिए कंपेल किया गया और उन्होंने आंसर देने से मना कर दिया और कहा कि हमारा अंडर आर्टिकल 20 सब क्लास 3 के अंतर्गत हमारा फंडामेंटल राइट है, हमको कंपेल नहीं कर सकते। अगर मैं चाहूँ शिक्षा से कोई आंसर दे सकती हूँ, नहीं तो आप उनको कंपेल नहीं कर सकते हैं क्योंकि हमारा फंडामेंटल राइट है। उसके बाद पुलिस अथॉरिटी ने आईपीसी के सेक्शन 179 अंडर 179 उनको प्रारूप किया। तो मामला सुप्रीम कोर्ट में गया तो आनेवाल सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने जब आर्टिकल 20 सब क्लास 3 का प्रोटेक्शन आर्टिकल 20 सब क्लास 3 का प्रोटेक्शन केवल एक कोर्ट में ही नहीं प्राप्त है, ये आपको उस समय ही प्राप्त होता है जब कोई पुलिस अथॉरिटी या आईपीसी के सेक्शन 161 सब क्लास 2 के अंतर्गत अगर किसी से कोई इंक्वायरी करती है तो उस समय भी आर्टिकल 20 क्लास 3 का प्रोटेक्शन उसको मिलेगा। तो हमें आपसे समझ आ रहा है कि एक जैसे आर्टिकल 20 20 सब क्लास 3, 21 और ये आपको से रिलेटेड है और ये हमने आपको लिंक कैसे बताई और इन लास्ट जो है मैं इसको कंक्लूड करना चाहूंगा टू कंक्लूड आई वुड लाइक टू क्योंकि मेरा ये पीएचडी का अभी इसमें काफी वर्क हुआ है तो मेरा अपना एक पर्सनल ऑब्जर्वेशन रहा है तो कंक्लूड आई वुड लाइक टू माय सजेशन एंड पर्सनल ऑब्जर्वेशन एंड that follow guidelines of Honorable Supreme Court and the famous case of D.K. Basu and Jugal Singh and other famous judgments being adopted and incorporated in criminal laws of the country to make a proper implementation of such laws. Those arrested persons are still deprived of the legal and constitutional rights. So it is my suggestion that each and every citizen of this country must be aware of law as well as the rights and privileges guaranteed by the Constitution. And through this process, the right and arrested person can be protected. I hope that this of mine is just simple step to make aware of right of arrested person. And now I am handing over the person to President. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir, for such an insightful and informative lecture. It was indeed a pleasure hearing you. Next, we have our speaker, Dr. Anju Pandey, who has earned her doctorate degree in the field of law, impact of genetically modified food and patent laws on farmers' rights in India, critical legal studies, from Central University of Rajasthan. She holds a Master of Law degree from Babasaheb Bhimrao Central University, and Bachelor of Laws degree from Lucknow University, and a Commerce degree from Lucknow University, and has qualified UGC NET twice in law. She carries research experience and one service experience as assistant professor in law at UPS. She is leading the Woodford Association of School of Law, UPS, and has engaged herself as an avid researcher and published articles in various journals. At the entry of the profession itself, she started marking her presence as a speaker in various academic platforms and a panelist of discussion on legal issues. She leads and delivers the requirements of the profession, making the teaching, learning, research, and their application. She will talk about the CRPC and IPC related aspect of today's topic. I would request our guest speaker to enlighten us and request all the participants to switch off their cameras and microphones before we begin. And in case of any questions related to topic, kindly drop them in the chat box. The platform is all yours.
Thank you so much for having me here, and I am really grateful to Vertex Law Chamber for providing us this platform to discuss such a very relevant topic for today's generation, because although the rights of the arrested persons are there in a constitution and well defined and elaborately incorporated in various laws, legislations, but still what we are experiencing, what we are witnessing in day-to-day news articles, what is happening all around us, is gives us a triggers the debate that yes, there is a extreme necessity to reform the system. Police reform is very much required. So without wasting much time, I would like to begin with my session, and I would like to highlight some facts and figures and try to broadly cover the provisions which are incorporated in CRPC, IPC, and Indian Evidence Act. And then I would like to highlight some Police Act provisions. And then obviously I will try to give some recommendations, some solutions based on my understanding of these provisions. As our earlier speaker has pointed out very well, certain landmark judgments on the constitutional law and build up the background where all these rights are originated in Indian soil. In India, we are experiencing constitutional governance, which inculcate the principle of rule of law in the system. And as per this rule of law, each and everyone, notwithstanding their power and position, whatever they are holding, they are subject to the law of the land and to administer justice as per the constitutional values, particularly in criminal matters where the individual's liberties and dignities are at stake. With the individual and which have been established and as an institution has been carved out to look into the affairs and to secure the rights and liberties of people. When any offense committed in any society, the first institution whom they approach or they try to bring that matter is the police. Therefore, police as an institution, how they are dealing with the people, how sensitive they are towards their uh, wrongful act committed against them is a very crucial thing to be discussed. So, first of all, I would like to share with you some facts and figures which I have collected through various reports. For example, the National Police Commission, in its report, referring to the quality of arrest by the police in India, mentioned the power of arrest as one of the chief sources of corruption in police. And as per this report, nearly 60% of the arrests either unnecessary or unjustified. And that unjustified police action accounted for 43.2% of the expenditures of the jails. And likewise, as per the research of the Institute Center for the Study of Developing Societies, less than 25% of the Indians trust people. NHRC in its annual report has highlighted the fact that in the year 2017-18 itself, 164 deaths were resulting from police encounters. And in India, we have only 144 police personnel on 1 lakh populations. So these are the figures which gives us a glimpse how police as an institution is working, how secure the rights and liberties of the people which has been guaranteed to them by the constitution, the law of the land. So when we are talking about the rights and privileges of arrested people, we should know what is the meaning of arrest. Although arrest as a term has not been defined in any laws, whether either in CRPC or in Evidence Act, IPC, nowhere it has been defined. But in some books, we may find the reference of the term arrest, the meaning of the term arrest from the legal dictionaries. So, as per the meaning given to this word, arrest is usually legal authority to deprive a person of his or her freedom of movement. And there must be an intent to arrest under the authority of law for the purpose of putting or detaining him to answer a criminal charge and preventing the commission of a criminal offense. So whenever we are talking about arrest, rights of the arrested person, this talk cannot be completed without including police as an institution. So what the role, responsibilities of the police and what are limitations on them so that the rule of law, which was promised by our constitution, can be established. So police is an institution as a law enforcing agency of the state. And police help the state to maintain law and order and to bring up the sense of security among people. Police is under a legal duty and has a legitimate right to arrest a criminal and to interrogate him during the investigation of an offense. I would like to mention one case here that is R.P. Kapoor versus State of Punjab. In this particular case, it has been highlighted by the court that it is not strengthening the prosecution case that a police officer must do, but rather their objective in an investigation should be based on unraveling the truth. Police as an institution, as an investigation officer, are not supposed to strengthen the prosecution's case and to convict the accused anyhow. But their responsibility, their duty is to unravel the truth. And if the person who is suspected to commit some crime actually innocent, it is the job of the police to bring that fact before the court and to give justice to that person, assist the court in doing true justice with it. Whenever we are talking about the police as an institution, we should know about the evolution of the police administration in India. And we know that this institution has been established in British India's time. in colonial period it has been established. And the first legitimate attempt in modern, we can say, it is the Police Act 1861. So then after, in 1866, Railway Police was constituted. In 1902, Lord Cushing has recommended certain things to be incorporated to bring reform in the police system. In 1912, Royal Commission on the Public Service was appointed and recommended certain recommendations. Then in the year 1946, Delhi Special Police Establishment Act was enacted, and CBI, which we are having right now, is a result of that act. So likewise, why I include all these provisions, that whatever we are experiencing, the way the way police are dealing with the public in general, actually gives us an idea that still they are, carrying the legacy of that colonial period. They are not, ready to left with the practices which was there at that time. Still, it is reflected in their attitude, in their dealing, that they are the masters. They are not the service providers, but they are the masters. They are not the protectors, but they are become dead in the minds of the people. That is why that fact has been highlighted by the NHRC itself, that only less than 25% people, Indian people, having trust on police. So now, what in this particular act, which having its origin from the colonial period, what powers and duties has been given, and whether there is any provision, through which common people who are subjected to crime, who are subjected to inhuman treatment in the hand of police, avail any benefit, whether they are having any remedies. So, Police Act 1861 incorporated certain sections which have the elaborate provision what can be done against the police. So first of all, Section 7 along Section 35 and 36 provides for departmental disciplinary proceedings against the police officer. And Section 7 of the Act make the provision for departmental proceeding against the police if he found remiss or negligent in performing his duties. Accordingly, Section 35 of the Police Act says any change against police officer above the rank of constable shall be inquired into and determined only by an officer exercising the power of a magistrate. Likewise, Section 36 contemplates judicial proceedings against the police officer if he contravene the law in discharging of his function. And Section 29 of the Act says that breach or neglect of rule, regulation, or order or the violation of any duty can be committed in one of the two ways. It can be in the nature of a willful non-performance of duty, which under certain circumstances may include an illegal omission to act, which he willfully failed to do. And the second situation could be arise where positive duty has been imposed by law, but which has been in a manner not authorized by the law. When they are obeying they are doing their duties, but exceeding the power which is given to them to fulfill that duties and obligations. So these two situations could be there through which police excessively using their power and ultimately which resulted into the violation of the rights of the people, which is given to them by the Constitution, by various legislative enactments. That particular act, Section 42, is also relevant, which empowered the state to prosecute its here. In this section, Shankar Lal versus Emperor case is important. And this act provides that even the private person can take action against the police. And in Hari Singh versus Mukund case, Punjab High Court had directed the attention of magistrate to deal carefully and expeditiously with all complaints made to them against anybody, and more so against police officials, because the stability of the state depends on the confidence which the citizens have in the machinery for adjudication of rights. Likewise, civil action can be taken, and as pointed out by our other speakers, that there are instances where Supreme Court has awarded damages and imposed compensation on the state's functionaries. So civil action could be there. Apparently, it looks like that private person could take action against the police, and there are ample provisions for disciplinary actions. Even courts has been given superior authority to take action against the police. But in practice, how possible it is, how promising it is, and especially in Indian context where a majority of the population are not economically sound and not very much educated about their rights and the means through which they can avail these rights. So in this case, if a private person, somehow want to take action against them and lodge a complaint against them and file a plaint against them, there is a rare possibility that they could have the system will help them in getting justice, and there is a less possibility that they would get the witness against the police officers. And once they are going to lodge a will be taken, will going to take their concern seriously. So now I would like to move towards the purpose of arrest. Like the meaning of the arrest is there, police as an institution, how it works, and what is the purpose of arrest. Actually, in so many cases, it has been said that arrest is required only in those cases where it is very urgent requirement to maintain law and order and to prevent the commission of crime. And basically, the major purpose of arrest or to take another person into the custody is to make sure his presence during the trial and to interrogate him on some issues, on some questions, in order to, in order to know the truth. But this should not be the rule. This this particular provision, this particular right should be availed only in the situations and circumstances where it is actually required. But these are the guidelines given by the Supreme Court, these are the provisions which are there. But in practice, what is happening? This particular provision, this particular power has been misused since long. And still, this issue is very well present in our society, subsists in our society. And on that ground, we can say that whether we are not having faith in our constitutional machineries, whether our apex court are not having that much, respect in the eyes of its own state's functionaries, or something else. Now the question is who are authorized for making arrests and how arrest should be made. So who are authorized for making arrest? It depends on two further classifications. That there are two type of cases where arrest can be done without warrant and arrest can be made with warrant. So where arrest can be made with or without warrant, in that cases only police is authorized. And in some of the cases which are specifically mentioned in section 43, private persons are also authorized to arrest another person. And in that case, that person who are supposed to be arrested by a private person should be the proclaimed offender or committed or is committing a crime in front of that private person, and the nature of the crime which they are committing should be the non-bailable ones and cognizable ones. So in that case, private person are also authorized to do arrest, but immediately after the arrest, our CRPC have the provision that they are required, they are supposed to bring that person immediately to the custody of police officer. And section 41 of the CRPC elaborately make the provisions and specifically mention the 9 conditions where police may arrest any person without warrant. And in these conditions, specifically in this section, mention that they are required to give reasons why they are arresting the people. And if they are not arresting the person who are supposed to be arrested without warrant as per the section 41 in various clauses, then again there is a requirement on the part of the police officer to mention that reasons in writing why they have arrested the person. And these changes are the latest ones. Like these changes have been incorporated through the amendment of 2009 or 2010. So again, the question arises, like these rights, although broadly covered or implicit into the constitutional provisions, but has not been given mention and has been exploited since long. In 2009, 2008 amendments only these provisions has been added and attention has been given to the basic rights in our criminal justice system to correct these rights, what they are having, how they are getting exploited in the hands of police has been taken into consideration. Likewise, if I'm moving towards how arrests should be made, Section 46 of the CPC makes detailed provisions that the police officer or other person can actually touch or confine the body of the person to be arrested unless there be a submission to the custody by word or action. In case of forcible resistance by arrestee, police may use all means and necessary to effect the arrest. But nothing in the section gives them right to force death of the person who is not accused of offence punishable with death or life imprisonment. So section 46 gives them right and tell and specifically tell that what is arrest. Like they are authorized to touch and confine the body of the person until and unless they themselves give the submission of their body through words or actions. And in case they are forcibly resist that particular act of the police who are having the authority or who are going there to arrest them by the authority of law, they have the right, police officers have the right to use force against them, a counter of their resistance. But in that way also they are not authorized to cause their death. Now, here, as per section 46, what it talks about or what's the spirit of this particular section, how it has been misused. We are having numerous encounters by the police. And as I have highlighted the fact that there are 100 plus encounter cases in 1 year only. And Supreme Court in PUC versus State of Maharashtra has said that termed the encounter as an extrajudicial killing and held that extrajudicial killings must be properly and independently investigated so that justice may be done. And termed the fake encounter as illegal. Likewise, Supreme Court in the case of Public Union for Civil Liberties versus Union of India issued a set of 16-point guidelines to be followed for a effective and independent investigation into every encounter death. And out of these 16 points, 11th point says that if on the conclusion of an investigation, the evidence shows that death had occurred by the use of firearm amounting to an offence under the IPC, disciplinary action against such officer must be promptly initiated and he is placed under the suspension. Again, in Om Prakash versus State of Jharkhand, our apex court held that it is not the duty of the police to kill the accused merely because he is a criminal. It was further stated that encounter amounted to state-sponsored terrorism. Although in all these cases, Supreme Court has highlighted the necessity to having the independent inquiry and tried to term as the state-sponsored terrorism and to prohibit this kind of practice. But what is going on, we all know. As far as fake encounters are concerned, there is some facts which I have gone through given by NHRC, National Human Rights Commission. As per the NHRC's view, false encounters are the results of pressure by the political masters. And the public, particularly the educated middle class, also do not mind if the police take the law in their own hands and become executioners. The other reason cited by NHRC is that the slow moving the criminal justice system in the country, hence pressure on the police for shortcut and extra legal methods. So somehow, somewhere, these are the justifications by the police authorities or sometimes by the public at large. When we are talking about rights of arrestees, so because rights and duties are correlated, so this can be attributed by the provisions which impose certain sets of obligations on police authorities when they are making arrests. So in that order, there are various collaborative provisions, particularly added by the amendment of 2009 in our CRPC, after the DK Basu's case, some of the guidelines given in that case have been incorporated in our provisions literally. And as per these new provisions which are added, police officers are duty bound. When they are going to arrest someone, they should have the accurate, visible, and clear identification. And they are bound to prepare a memorandum of arrest. There, in that memorandum of arrest, they have to fill the required details. Inform they are duty bound by virtue of section 41B to inform the arrested person about his right to have a relative or friend to be informed about his arrest. Arrested person has a right to meet an advocate of his choice during interrogation, not throughout interrogation. And in our legal provisions, like in Constitution also talks about the free legal aid, and in CRPC section 300E is also relevant. So in case of person who is not economically sound to avail the counsel to defend his case before the law, before the court, then there is a provision to provide them that financial assistance on the part of the state. So Section 49 is very relevant in terms of rights of the arrestees because it literally says that there should not be any unnecessary restraint. Only that much restraint which is proportional, which is required to detain that person who are supposed to be arrested or arrested. So in Prem Shankar Shukla versus Delhi administration and in number of cases thereafter, Supreme Court has reiterated number of times about against the handcuffing and termed it as a inhuman treatment which should not be there, which should not be practiced. But even after so many cases, even after so many guidelines, still it is practicing. Person arrested should be informed of the grounds of arrest and then to bail. Obligation of person making arrest to inform about the arrest and place where the arrested person being held to any of his friends or relatives. This section 50A talks about that police officers should inform the relatives of the person arrested that on what grounds they have arrested them and where they are detaining them. Likewise, person arrested with warrant to be taken before the court. Section 56 and 76, and they are bound duty bound to bring that person arrested before the magistrate within 24 hours. But in practice, it is not happening. And sometimes, in some of the cases, it has been find out that person is arrested on 20th July, and in General Diary, they have maintained that they had arrested on 29th July. So, what happened with them in between these 2-3 days was not recorded anywhere, and they are subjected to torture in police custody. Person arrested without warrant not to be detained more than 24 hours. Person arrested to be brought before court without delay. Procedure when investigation cannot be completed in 24 hours. This section 167 talks about if in 24 hours and the police officer have in good faith believe that there is an actual case and there is a possibility that they could trace witnesses about the case. In that case, they have to take the permission from the magistrate, order from the magistrate, remand order, and on that basis, this extension can be made. But in any case, it could not exceed 15 days in total in police custody. Then after 60 days or 90 days, as the case may be, it depends on the gravity of the offense or the amount of punishment with which it is punishable. And if the police officer failed to complete his investigation in the time provided in section 167, the accused person, the arrested person, then in that case has as a matter of right default bail. He will get the bail in that cases. Then section 72 of CRPC is relevant to court here when we are talking about the rights of the arrested person because it imposes a liability on the police officer to maintain day-to-day recording of their investigation. And in Samshul Kumar versus District, Supreme Court point out the vagueness prevailing in this country in the matter of maintaining the diary under section 172. In some of the cases, we will find that if there is a fabrication of reports, so we may know that in India there is a practice that in the places where they have records of very genuine records, it destroyed because of fire or something else. So these kinds of practices are there. About all these obligations which imposed by law, and indirectly all these obligations is fulfilled essentially going to secure the rights of the arrestee. So supposed to be, if these have not been obeyed by the police officer, what remedies, what actions can be taken against them? So in IPC, there are various provisions through which action can be taken against the police officer who are exceeding their power, misusing their power. So in that series, there is section 222 which provides for punishing the police officers if they confine persons on some accusations to commit them for trial. Likewise, section 330 talks about voluntary calling hurt to extort confession or to compel restoration of property. Section 331 provides voluntary causing behaviors to extort confession or to compel restoration of property. Likewise, section 348 talks about wrongful confinement to extort confession. But in order to invoke any of these provisions of the IPC against the public servant, against the police officer, there is a mandatory compliance of section 197 of CRPC, which talks about prosecution of judges and public servants. So sanctions required in order to invoke any of these provisions. Likewise, when we are talking about all these provisions, Indian Evidence Act and some of the provisions of this act is very important to mention here. Section 5 is about confession to the police officer not to be proved. Section 1 of SC again says that the statements to police not be signed of statements in evidence to proved against it. So all these restrictions, all these bar in these provisions of the Evidence Act are there in order to discourage the police officer for being tortured with the person in their custody, and whatever information they are extracting from them by using force, by using third-degree methods, are not having any evidently value in the eyes of law. But again, there is a lacuna. And section 27 is a provisional clause. It says that how much of information received from accused may be true. So whatever information a police officer extracted from the person in their custody, a portion can be proved, can be used during the trial. In trial, to prove if any case could be found, the purpose of the provision of 25 and 26 is diluted by incorporation of section 27. And particularly here, I would like to mention that in USAs, there is exclusionary provision is there. So whatever information police officer traced from them cannot be used as an evidence in a procedure in their trial. So now the question arises, when judicial pronouncements are suffused, and whether these provisions, which we have elaborative provisions in various legislations, are suffused. We have the Joginder Kumar versus State of UP case and guidelines, D.K. Basu's elaborative guidelines, then M.C. Abraham's case, Anish Kumar versus State of Bihar, the very leading case where it has been held that section 489-88A is a social provision, a kind of while police are going to arrest the person concerned should be conscious or should be sensitive towards their rights. And now, which I have collected through interaction with the retired judges and retired police officers, specifically for this webinar. So, what is their opinion? And their opinion reflects what has actually happened, what is practice. So, as far as the judges' perspectives are concerned, judges are having the opinion that there are plenty of constitutional and legal safeguards, but there is a difference between the provisions laid down in a status and practiced in real situations. Political power and assisting nexus and politics is a major cause for corruption And this particular point has been highlighted by various that nexus is very broken. Until and unless this nexus could be no improvement in the dealing of the public in the hands of police. Likewise, the police perspective is that police system is hierarchical, and how police personnel are working is subjective and depends on person. Political pressure are playing dominant role. Abuse of this power is very normal. It's not a new thing. Now the feudal attitude of police. In recent cases during lockdown as well, we have number of videos on Instagram, Facebook, where it could be easily found that the way public are dealing with uh, the dealing between the public and people, and they try to police officers themselves capture those moments, and they are just treat it as a celebration and shared it on social media platforms. So again, it is a torture, mental torture, and physical torture are there. But what about the privacy of the people? What about their constitution right to life and dignity? They ignore altogether. And recently, in Tamil Nadu, what happened to fathers and if for what offense it have been taken to 3 months imprisonment, not more than that. But what actually happened, police officers collectively they have caused their death. Recently in Kerala Gold smuggling case as well, the council appearing for lady who is involved in this gold smuggling as per the NIAs, she was subjected to mental torture in custody, and that is why she has confessing or she has given some statement against her. Although in our constitution itself there is a provision of self. So whatever is happening, whatever is going on in our society, the way police are dealing with us and the kind of political is subsisting, the kind of colonial legacy they are still carrying on is justified by taking into their consideration two actions. One is populi against supreme acts, where it is the supreme law, and the safety of the nation is the supreme law. But there is a very crucial question that whether the end just means whatever means, whether it is fair, unfair, human, inhuman, can justify the end. So after going through various provisions, there are some recommendations that 8.9% women in police. So if that proportion can be increased, there is a possibility to integrate some sensitivity in our police administration, and transparency of action and accountability are very much required. Could be a safeguard and could be proved to change their attitude and change individual tendency. Likewise, attention is required to be the proper welfare and orientation of this force. Its role in the society has also undergone a sea change. And ultimately, all these provisions, all these discussions are, moving around to very basic things. And what is supposed to be done is to strike a balance between two conflicting rights. On the one hand, this is social interest, and on the other hand, there is an individual liberty. Although we not expect a perfection, absolute perfection, but in the and liberties of the individual, even though there is a charge, there is a suspension that they are having any involvement in the commission of the crime, it rights should be respected in the hands of the police because they are the protector of their right. And in present scenario, over the 7 decades which we are having after having position, the way people are having their image in the eyes of the common people is not satisfactory, and it's still hard. Thank you so much. Now I'm requesting to the moderator.
It was indeed a pleasure here with you. We have a couple of questions from our participants, which I would read out one by one so that all questions can be answered. The first question that we have is, so many times police officials use force to arrest a person and does not help to reach his home and their family members. What is the legal in this case?
Hello. Hello.
Yes, audible.
मैंने इस क्वेश्चन का मैंने अपने रिसर्च में कि ऐसा होता है, लेकिन इसकी रेमेडी है हमने अपने कंक्लूड किया जब, तो हमने उस पर एक पॉइंट कहा कि हर व्यक्ति को कहीं नहीं अपने कॉन्स्टिट्यूशनल राइट के रिगार्डिंग हमको अवेयर होना होगा। जैसे इसको बहुत सारे लोग ले जाते हैं पुलिस स्टेशन पे, कर सकते हैं, या आप जो हायर अथॉरिटी है डिस्ट्रिक्ट लेवल की अथॉरिटी है उससे ऊपर की अथॉरिटी है, वहां आप मेल के माध्यम जैसे भी आप इन्फॉर्म कर सकते हैं।
The next question we have is, can anyone file ADP in advance in 498A?
Revise the question.
Sure, sir. Can anyone file AVP in advance in 498A and DB Act when the FIR is still not filed in any stage?
ये जो है आपका डोमेस्टिक वायलेंस जो एक्ट है, ठीक है, तो हमने जैसा कि कहा आपसे कि आपका ट्यूशन है, पॉइंट बताए गए हैं तो सारे राज्य में एप्लीकेबल होते हैं, ठीक है। तो विदाउट एफआईआर किसी व्यक्ति को किसी कंडीशन में अगर पुलिस स्टेशन पे इस तरह से बैठाया जाता है, इस तरह से कुछ होता है, कौन सा होता है?
The next question is, you should never talk to the police without police officers are ready to obtain confessions, admissions, and consistency. There may be things that happen and ask us when they don't give us time to connect with our past.
जी मैम, के बारे में और आपको क्लियर करके और भी प्रोविजंस हैं जो क्लियर कट ये डिफाइन कर सकते हैं कि अगर जो है पुलिस अथॉरिटी के समक्ष हम किसी तरह का कोई इस तरह का स्टेटमेंट देते हैं तो वो स्टेटमेंट बोर्ड में एडमिसिबल नहीं होता है। एक क्वेश्चन आपका था ये, मैम प्लीज रिवाइज द क्वेश्चन।
The statements out of context and how they are they don't time connect with our house.
CRP's provision to allow them to have the interaction with the council throughout the proceeding. And if they are not obeying their duty, there are certain provisions in IPC which I have already quoted there. So it is their duty, like it is legislative duty on the police officer. They cannot misuse that power. They cannot stop the accused from back the council. It is well established norm. It is well established right. They are having, and in case they want to right, there are remedies. And as per the statement concerned, if they are extracting the statement, the statement will not going to have any direct value in the court of law. So this person not bound, because in India we are having the adversarial system where it is the responsibility and duty of the prosecution to prove the case beyond doubt. So yeah, this is the answer as far as my understanding of the subject is concerned.
The next question we have is that it's very difficult to get FIR copy from police. So how can a person get easily any provision for the same? In that case also, FIR copy, there is a mandatory provision that police officers are bound immediately after lodging the FIR to provide of the copy to the accused person or the relative of the accused person without charging any cost, a single rupee from them. And if they are violating their right and disobeying this legal provision, then they can approach the higher superior authorities and they will bring the matter. Thank you so much, sir and ma'am, for clearing out the doubts that the participants had. If there are any questions, please go ahead and ask. I think that's all. So now I would like to invite Mr. Nitin Vermoda, co-founder at the Robotics Law Chambers, to give his remarks.
Everyone. So we are concluding this webinar session here. I, Nitin Vermoda, on behalf of the Robotics Law Chambers, would like to extend a very hearty and sincere thanks to our respected speakers, Dr. Vinod Kumar Saroj and Dr. Anju Pandey ma'am, who blessed us with their presence and knowledge and took up their valuable time from the busy schedule. Would also like to extend a special thanks to Ms. Priya Rao for moderating this event and of this event. And at last, a big thanks to our team of the Robotics Law Chambers. Thank you everyone for your contribution. And participants are requested to kindly fill the feedback form. The link is shared in the comment section. Thank you and have a nice evening.
Thank you so much.